highly recommend this book. And based on this, I looked at the US book, and it talks about how the org structure is set up for a company. Is you have the owner and visionary. Think of it like basically a CEO. If you're running, you have your own team. So you are the one that's coming in with a big vision. Okay, we need to do 50 deals, 100 deals, however many deals you want to do this year. And then what is the long-term vision? We'll get started. How many of you guys are familiar with EOS in your business or have read the book Traction? If not, I highly recommend reading this book, Traction. This book right here, if you guys have not, I highly recommend checking this book out. We are implementing it in our business, in REsimpli, in Max Properties. Highly recommend this book. I bought it back in 6 years ago, and then we're going back. We actually hired an EOS implementer to come in and implement in REsimpli. We just started this week. So highly recommend this book. And based on this I looked at the EOS book, and it talks about how the org structure is set up for a company. Is you have the owner and visionary. Think of it like basically a CEO. If you're running, you have your own team. So you are the one that's coming in with a big vision. Okay, we need to do 50 deals, 100 deals, however many deals you want to do this year. And then what is the long-term vision? And then underneath that, you would have an integrator in your business. So integrator would be your chief operating officer. And it could be the same person. You could be the visionary. You could be the integrator also. So again, they use the term owner or visionary is the term that they use, which is basically a CEO in your business. And integrator essentially is COO. Generally, the personality that you need for an owner or visionary tends to be different from a person that is going to be really good fit with in an integrator COO role. But generally, when we're starting out, most of the times we're filling in both the seats. Or if you have a partner, generally you would have one person who would be your visionary, a CEO, and then the other person would just take the role of COO. And then these are for a typical real estate investing business, these are the departments that you would see in your business. So you would have the marketing. I would say more or less what we do in our business, when I say we, I'm talking about us as real estate investors. It's essentially a marketing business for us, right? Our goal is to get properties, buy off-market properties from motivated sellers. So for us, it's all about marketing. If we stop doing marketing, basically our business more or less comes to a halt. So marketing, I would say, is the most essential part of our business. Then from marketing, it goes on to the sales side of your business. So marketing would be your, it's a PPC, cold calling, direct mail, SEO, or whatever you might be doing, paper lead. And then, so it's whatever you're doing in your business to generate leads. And then once you have the leads come in, what are you doing in your business to convert those leads into deals? That would be the part of the sales team. So if you're thinking of your business in terms of structure, so you'd have the sales. And then once you have a property under contract, that's where your disposition side comes in. How are you wholesaling that property? And then you would have the transaction part of it. So as you send the contract over to your title company who is managing the communication as far as the transaction is concerned, dealing with the title company or any other transaction related work is concerned. And if you are going to be closing on that property, and like what we do in our business, we don't really wholesale. We are closing on all the properties that we get under contract, and they were actually rehabbing them. And then either we're selling to turnkey properties to other investors looking for cash flow properties, or we're selling them as to other homeowners. So for those would fall into a project management. And then once the property sells, then you would have your finance department, basically your taking of your banking, making sure you record the revenue, it goes into the right, you book your expenses, your bookkeeping is clean. So that all comes into your bookkeeping accounting side of it. So just to give you an idea, so we do about 20-25 deals a year. I live in Canada right now. I'm moving to San Diego area next month, and I invest in Northwest Indiana. So my entire team is totally virtual. We use a lot of VAs. My VA, she actually used to live in Philippines, but she moved to Canada a couple of months ago for higher studies. She's still working for me while she's living in Canada. And then my project manager is based in California. So she's managing all my flips from California. She's been with me since 2016. Yeah, so she's been with me for 7 years. She's lived in California since she's been with me. She's managing everything from there. And then I have, so those are the two people full-time working for me. And then I also have an acquisition person commission only that is in Indiana. So for us, we're leveraging basically VAs. In my business, I am the visionary, and then I do some of this integrator role, but my project manager is the one who's super, super organized in my business. She's the one, the properties that we're buying, we literally, I feel like my role in the business has basically come down to making sure that the marketing goes out on time. And what marketing we're doing, I make decisions on that and make sure it goes out on time. And then, coming up with a budget for the marketing. And then my project manager, especially for the big rehabs that we have, she manages everything from start to finish. She'll just tell me, hey, Sharad, can you please take care of this? We need to, get this document notarized. We need to send wire here, or some very, very high level admin work is kind of what I'm doing. So in my business, we have a VA, my lead manager who's living in Canada. She's doing cold calling for me, and she's also answering our calls in my business. So huge part of our business. So she is the first point of contact for any new leads that we have coming in. And then highly super important part of our business, from taking the initial lead all the way up to setting up an appointment. So now our process is, initially we used to set up an appointment, have our acquisition manager go in, but now because we're closing on every single property, what we decided works better for us is to contact a homeowner and then have our project manager send our contractors out there to see how much work the property needs to get done. Like, for example, we had a lead come through SEO or PPC. It was an online lead, and then the homeowner wanted $10,000, and we were like, "Oh, this is a fantastic deal." Rather than having our acquisition manager go out, we sent our contractors go out and look at the property, and it turned out it needed a lot of work. It had fire damage. So even before we sent our acquisition manager out there, our contractors went out and came back and said, this is going to be like $90,000 to $100,000 rehab. And we didn't want to take that big of a project. So we just completely passed on the property. So my lead manager is doing a very, very important role, her role. And I did a separate training on this a month or 6 weeks ago. Should definitely check out what she's doing at my business. So her primary role, basically the most important thing for her is to make sure she's getting as many qualified appointment for our contractor, for our project manager to go out and look at the property. So goal for us to get as many decent appointment as she can for our project manager. Then project manager goes out, gives the numbers. If the numbers make sense, or if it's not too big of a project, then the lead passes on to the acquisition manager, and she's the one who goes out. So right now in our business, we're doing PPC marketing. We're not doing SMS. We haven't done SMS in a couple of years. We're doing cold calling. She's the one who's calling from within the system. She's calling about 150, 200 people per day. And we just got a contract last week through cold calling. And then we have another one coming through PPC. And then all I do with direct mail is just pull the list, send out the direct mail, and she is the one that's taking our incoming call. So she's managing all of that. She's just picks up the call on the in-app answering on her phone, and then just manages everything from there. And then on the sales side of it, she's also acting as, she's doing part sales in just to get our lead qualified, initial lead coming in, to getting it qualified, getting it ready for our project manager or acquisition team. For us, my specific business, the disposition is really after the project management part of it, because most of the projects that we're selling now, we're selling to other investors that are looking to buy cash flow properties. That has been working really, really well for us. So again, if that's something you haven't looked into, I would definitely look into that. Some of our deals that we're doing on the turnkey side, we're making $50,000 to $65,000 on those projects, and then we don't have to pay any commission also. And then I also own a property management company, so we make a little bit money on the back end, also 10% of the rent. So definitely look into that if you guys are not doing any turnkey properties. Transaction coordinator for us, my project manager manages all of that. Again, she's virtual based in California. We work with the same title company. Another thing I would recommend, if you guys are not doing that, highly recommend building relationships with the same title company. not just because of the value you will get, building relationships, but you'll be amazed how many times you will get some deal just because of the relationship that you have with the title company. I've been working with this title company for last 8 to 10 years. And this title company has connected me with a lender that I have a line of credit with. And then the same lender I bought about 25 to 30 properties from, just from that relationship. And the relationship developed working with that title company. And also because I live in Canada, she's a little bit more flexible with me when it comes to closing and stuff, because I've been working with them for a long period of time, and then makes the process super, super simple. If we get a property, if a seller is interested in working with us, all we do is send a contract from eSign within REsimpli over to, so the contract first comes to me when we're buying a property. I'll sign it. I'll make sure everything looks good. Then once I sign, it goes over to the seller. And then once the seller signs it, it goes over to my project manager, who then forwards it to the title company, make sure she reviews it, everything looks good. She sends it over to the title company, and then title company will pull title for us and then manage everything with the seller for us. And then the great thing, again, working with the same title company, is like we have a contract, property in the contract, and the seller seems a little bit fishy. So even before we got the title, we sent over the property detail to the title company, and the title company started doing the title work for us to make sure that there's nothing fishy going on. So makes a huge, huge difference. And then on the project management side, again, my project manager from California, Claudia, she's managing everything. The way I've set up my business with her is, so I have my primary bank account with Chase, and then with her, I've set up an online bank account with Novo Bank, I believe. So every week, she'll send me, I'll do a meeting with her, we'll go through the numbers, and she'll say, hey, I need $10,000 or $20,000 for this week for these projects. And I'll move the money over from my Chase operating account over to the Novo bank account. And she's the one taking care of all the payments with the contractors, making sure all the invoices are paid on time, that we're staying on budget with every single property. And then how I look into that is, before we start a project, she'll go and create scope of work, all within REsimpli. So I'll go and make sure, okay, we need 40, 45, 50,000, whatever the budget is. And then as we're making payments, she has access to the financial side within REsimpli. Then we'll go in, we'll both look at it, make sure, okay, once a week, is this project on track, off track, as far as time is concerned, and as far as money is concerned. Our goal is to be in and out of a project, if it's a turnkey property, in 90 days or less. So from the time we buy the property, so cash goes in, to the time we sell the property, cash comes back to us, should be 90 days or less. Sometimes it ends up being a little bit longer if we buy, sometimes we'll buy properties, or a lot of times we're buying properties from homeowners or landlords that have, tenants that are not super cooperative. So we'll have to go through the eviction process, which in Indiana can take 30 to 45 days. So it adds, 30 to 45 days, but our goal is to be in and out of a project in 90 days for a turnkey property. And then use our money, ideally at least 3 times a year, the same money. So the longer it takes to flip a property, the lower or the higher opportunity cost would be. So let's say if you have $100,000 at the beginning of the year, you put it on in a project on Jan 1st, and it takes you 9 months to rehab the property, it takes you 3 months to sell, and then you made $20,000. So you're like, okay, this is great. I made 20% return on my money. But now if you had been super, super efficient with your rehab project, instead of it taking 6 months, if you had finished the project in 2 months, and it still took you 3 months to sell, the whole project would have taken you from start to finish 5 months, and you still have the same $100,000 to invest in another project, which would take 5 months, and then you, with the same $100,000, you have now made money on 2 projects. So if you're not looking at your business, as far as efficiency is concerned, I really, really would recommend you do that. For me, for my project manager, the way she's compensated is, so she has a base salary. And on top of that, every project that we do, she gets paid profit, percentage of the profit. But if we make anything less than 15,000, that's absolutely the minimum threshold. If it's less than 15,000, she doesn't make anything. And then anything above 15,000, she makes a certain percentage and goes up as we make more money. However, the entire cost of the project, we take 1% of that for every month, as also basically 12% per year as the interest cost or holding costs or marketing costs that comes out of every single project. So if I have a project that costs $100,000 for me, and it took us 6 months from the time we bought the property to the time we sold. So basically, in interest and other holding costs and other non-direct cost for the property, it would end up costing us about $6,000 between marketing and other costs. So that comes out of the total profit for the project. So for her, she is super, super motivated to get the project done as quickly as possible, because the faster she gets the project done, so the same project, instead of 6 months, if she ends up taking only 3 months, so the $3,000 that we save, she gets 10% of that. So she actually gets $300 off that $3,000. So now if you add that over 10 projects going on, and then, with some of the other properties that we are large, projects, investing a lot of money, that money starts adding up. So I would look at, even for your purpose, if you're the one managing the project, I would set that deadline, I would set that timeline on yourself to get in and out of a project in 3 months if you can, or at least have the property ready. In some cases, if you're going to be selling it to an FHA, you can't sell it under 90 days, but at least have the property ready to go on the market as quickly as you meet the FHA guideline. So once we had the project done, then my bookkeeper, she's based in India. I've never met her. I talk to her maybe once a month when she has some questions. She's been with me for 4 or 5 years now. She'll just message me if she has any questions about a transaction. She'll send me, hey, you sent this payment or this money came in. Can you tell me what this is for? And then she'll just go in and do the finances. So very, very virtual team that we have. And these are all the departments that we have in our business. But again, we have multiple people sitting in different departments, different seats, managing all of this. So that would be the role of a virtual manager for you in your business. You want to find someone, especially for some of the tasks like marketing, for example. Ideally, if you can find someone who can do some cold calling and also manage your direct mail, like list pulling, sending out direct mail, that would save you. You want to start looking at your business as a complete org chart and figure out, okay, who is going to fit in this seat for me? Who's going to fit in, this position seat? So when you're just starting out initially, it's just going to be you sitting on all these different seats. But as your business starts growing, you want to look at, okay, my business is growing. What's the first thing, or what's the thing that gives me the biggest headache? For me, even though I used to be an accountant, I never liked doing bookkeeping. I never liked doing accounting. So that was the first thing I, found a person for, is somebody to take care of my bookkeeping. Just say, take care of my bookkeeping, just make sure everything is up to date. And then I'll review my books once a month, just make sure everything is on track. And then the next thing was the project management, especially when I used to live in Chicago. I moved to California, still had a business in Indiana. I needed a project manager, and then found this amazing person living in California. And I thought, you know what, I just try it out and see if she can manage projects from California and Indiana. And she's been amazing. She's been with me for 6 or 7 years now. And it's been absolutely amazing. And then my lead manager, she's been with me for about 4 or 5 years. She used to live in Philippines, just moved to Canada. She's still working for me. And my acquisition manager and I have been working together for 4 years. So very, very virtual team. Claudia, I don't even know. I've never met my lead manager, even though she lives like a couple of hours from where I live in Canada. Never met her. My project manager, Claudia, I've met with her a couple of times. And then my acquisition manager, I last saw her about 3 or 4 months ago, and I didn't see her for at least 3 or 4 years before that. So this is kind of how we're managing our business. And again, everybody is on the same platform, REsimpli, just managing everything. But yeah, I think we've just been really, really into virtual VAs. And VAs is not necessarily someone that's based in Philippines or overseas. It could be someone based in the US. We're looking to hire more VAs for REsimpli and other business that I have. So for us, it's anybody that has the skill set. For us, as long as the job can be done from anywhere, we want to find absolutely the best person for the job with the right skill set and also with the right mindset for that position. So that's kind of what we are doing in my business. I'm curious kind of what you guys are noticing and any questions. Narik has a question. Sure, can we at any point in this call ask a couple of CRM related? Yeah, absolutely. Let me just see if the other people have questions related to this topic, and then we can get into that. And Jim would love to jump on a Zoom to learn more about who you sell to. So Jim, if you're talking about the turnkey properties we build, I was having a conversation with someone the other day. If you are providing a good product, the people that are buying turnkey properties from you, one thing we've noticed is they're not looking to buy one property from you. Generally these people are looking to buy multiple properties. They're looking to buy, these are high net worth individuals. They're looking to build a portfolio. Like one buyer that we have, he lives in Los Angeles. We've sold about 35 or 40 properties to just that one person in last 5 years, I think. So he's consistently been buying, like he started buying a property every 6 months, then he's like, hey, this is good. Then he started buying every 5 months, 4 months. And now he's looking to buy like one property every month or so. If you're just starting out with turnkey properties, I would look at roofstock.com. Really, really good website. Basically a marketplace for investors looking to buy. It's a marketplace for people that have turnkey properties to sell, and then high net worth individual looking to buy cash flow turnkey properties. The website is, let me put the website in the chat, roofstock.com. So this website right here, super, like we've had really good experience working with them. Our preference is always to sell directly to the buyers that we have in our own list. They charge about 2.5% last time we sold a property with them. But if we're not able to find a buyer in our buyers list, then we're putting it on Roofstock. Again, we don't have a huge buyer list. I would say we have about 40, 50 people on our buyers list, but it's about the quality of buyers that we have than the quantity of buyers. And then we'll send it out to our buyers list. And most of the time, somebody will say, I'm interested. So as soon as we get a property in the contract, most of the times now, we'll send it out to our buyers and say, hey, this is the property that's coming in about 2 months or so. So we're trying to pre-sell the property as soon as we get under contract. We'll send it to our buyers list. And again, this is everything. This is, when I say we, I shouldn't say we, Claudia does this. I shouldn't even take credit for it. So Claudia's the one. She's like, hey, this is going to be a great property for Steve, for example. She's like, I'm going to send it to Steve and see if he's interested. She'll send it out. And then Steve might say, hey, you know what? I just bought a property a couple of months ago. I'm a little cash tight. I'll be ready to buy in a couple of months. So if you have something that's in the pipeline, she'll say, all right, we should have this property coming up. And then she'll reach out to other buyers that she's managing totally on her own. And then once you have that, you'll be surprised if you have a good property. And then these people that are buying properties, if they have good experience buying properties from you and they've seen cash flow, for 4, 6 months or a year, they will be interested. Not only they will be interested, they are going to tell their friends and family, and then you just organically grow your buyers list from that. A lot of the buyers that were selling properties, I've never even talked to them, never even had a conversation with them on the phone. Like Claudia is the one she's managing. She's like super incentivized in terms of increasing our net profit on these deals. She's managing contractors, she's managing the sales side of the project, everything from start to finish. The only thing that we're involved in is making sure that we're buying a property that is going to make us, it's going to be cash flow positive, and then it's going to make us profit in the end. But yeah, I mean, once you have that, definitely like just treat them like your premier buyers, because again, these are high net worth individuals. Chances are they're not just looking to buy one property, but buy multiple properties. I'm just trying to think if we have any buyer that we have sold a property to and they only bought one property from us. And I can't think of any buyer that just bought one property from us or just bought one and are not interested in buying more from us. So that's how powerful your turnkey property buyers will be. All right. Hey, Craig. So Craig is in Northwest Indiana. So Craig, honestly, we keep our marketing super, super simple for the list and then since you're familiar with Northwest Indiana, the only cities we're buying are in Hammond, Maryville, East Chicago, Highland, and Griffith. Our list is very simple, 30% equity or more, including unknown equity. And then they must have owned the property for 5 years or more, including unknown last sale date. That is all we use. Again, it's a very small market, so we don't want to have a very niche list. This is a very broad list. It includes homeowners, it includes absentees. And because it's a broad list, it covers all the niche lists for us, that they must have equity and they've owned their property for long enough for it to make sense. And then it covers everybody that's behind on taxes and whatnot. So it ends up being a good list for us. I'm sure we can, be a little bit more effective or efficient with it. But just, I'm super busy with other stuff. So it works out. We get we get properties from that. We use the same list for cold calling, exact same list for direct mail. When we are cold calling, we'll divide our campaigns based on the city. So we just finished Hammond. Now we're doing Maryville, for example. Once my lead manager is done from Maryville, then we'll pick the next city and just start dialing the entire list. So super simple list. Jim said, I just started a flip this month in Tampa. I need to work on my biases. Yeah, Jim. So the cool thing with this is, great question. So Jim is asking if we are selling near market value. Yeah, absolutely. So we actually would try to, so our basically for us, the properties make sense. We simply use 1% formula for our properties. So if the rent for the property is $1,000, basically our sale price would be $100,000 simply. So we just sold a property, or we just signed a contract on a property to sell for $265,000 or $270,000, I forgot, but it's literally rented for about $2,700 or $2,800. So we're just going based on the 1%. The market value may be a little bit more, a little bit less, but it ends up being around that, around the price that we're selling the property at. In fact, one property that we had it under contract for, it turned out $10,000 more than the appraisal value. We're still going to make decent profit on it. But the buyer was willing to pay us, I think, $232,000, and it ended up appraising for $222,000. We're still okay with the $222,000, but $232,000 would have been nice. But yeah, I mean, just for us, the way it works out, these are almost market value, or maybe like we're not selling at a significant discount, really not at a discount. It's like the markets that we're in, they're pretty close to the market value that we're selling at. Narek, I'm going to come back to your question. Michael's question, can you speak on why you prefer turnkey to investor as opposed to listing on MLS to get public using lesser finishes? So Michael, we sell properties to homeowners also, but just with the way the market is, it's easier for us to find properties that other landlords are trying to get out of. They have bad tenants, and we're more than happy to deal with it. Again, Claudia on our team manages the entire business, dealing with the contract, dealing with the attorney to get the eviction done, even dealing with the tenants. Like she went as far as, I kid you not, I was looking at my expenses the other day and I saw a charge of like $1,500 for Airbnb. And I, took a screenshot. I'm like, hey, Claudia, what's this for? She's like, oh yeah, this is how we have it down to, does it make sense to, spend money now? So this was like $1,600. And I said, hey, what was this for? She's like, oh yeah, we have the contractors ready. We have the buyer ready to buy the property, but the buyer wanted us to rehab the property. So she actually found an Airbnb and she did the whole analysis. She said Airbnb was going to be cheaper than, I forgot this other hotel. It's like a long-term hotel stay that you have. But yeah, she said this Airbnb was going to be cheaper for 2 or 3 weeks while the contractors were working on the property, then to put it in Great Value, I forgot the name of the hotel, just so that our process doesn't slow down, because spending that $1,600 to put the tenant in an Airbnb for 2 or 3 weeks makes more sense for us financially than to say, it doesn't make sense for us to spend that $1,700 on that Airbnb. So for us, we do sell properties to our homeowners, but just like selling to turnkey investors, way more profitable, less headache. And then once you sell properties to other turnkey investors, more often than not, they're coming back and buying more properties from you. So it just makes the process super, super simple. And then I also own a property management company in Indiana. They manage the properties, and then we get a little bit of cash flow on that. Our finishes, I would say our typical rehab finish to a homeowner would be slightly higher. For example, we will put a granite in a retail flip, which we would not put in a rental. But I would not say, the rental is more very, very straightforward rehab for us. Like it's always the same paint color, always the same cabinet, same faucet, same light fixture. Like we have taken the decision making completely out of turnkey. It just, hey, this is what we're going to do. This works for us for one property. It's going to work for us for every single property. When we do retail flips, it just, we have to make more decisions. We cannot just go in and make every house exactly the same paint, exactly the same flooring. So it just takes a little bit more involvement. And that's why I don't personally like it, because with turnkey properties, I have multiple exits. I can always sell it to I can always sell a turnkey properties as a retail properties. I can, of course, sell it as a turnkey. Worst case, if the market absolutely, turns upside down, I still have a cash flow positive property that I can sit on for, few months if I need to, while it's not costing me any money. So that for me, absolutely any day, if I can find a turnkey property over like a retail property, I would choose that any given day. Which rented 850, selling for 80,000, two buyers backed out, a big turnkey guy in my market telling me that the interest rate are hurting the turnkey market. He's not been able to sell it 1%. What's it? We have not had any issues. I mean, I would, depending on, I would try to, if your buyers backed out because of the interest rate, I would try to connect them. So I had somebody from Huntington Bank on a call a couple of months ago. That was a lender that I personally closed, on my primary residence with. And then we are referring a lot of our investors to him because he's able to get, I think I'll find out from Claudia, what was the interest rate that a couple of buyers that are closing properties from. So I want to say it was under 6%, if I'm not mistaken. So sometimes what may happen is your buyer may not be working with the right lender, right? So what I would do is I would try to go out and find a lender that is very investor friendly. So I would reach out to Nate. Nate Mack was on the call. I would reach out to him and connect your buyer with Nate and see if we can, or at least have a conversation and say, hey, I'm trying to sell some turnkey properties, could I send these buyers over to you? And if I did, what sort of interest rate you can provide them? Because the easier you can make the process, sometimes, you would have buyers come to you and say, hey, I have this property that I'm interested in buying a property, but they may not have started working with the lender. And if you have an awesome lender that you have more control on the transaction, then I would say, hey, if you haven't found a lender, let me put you in touch with this lender. He can help you get a really good interest rate. I want to say the couple of buyers that are buying properties from it, they both got under 6%. So they were very happy. They shopped with a couple of other lenders and they were very happy to work with Huntington Bank. So I would look into that. But do you have your property listed on Roofstock, Mitch?
No, I wasn't brave enough to try Roofstock yet. The guy that I talked to, he's a mentor of mine locally. He does turnkey stuff all the time. So I just kind of let him list it for me because he's also a broker.
Okay. He has a listing on MLS.
Yeah. So we put it on the MLS. The buyers aren't backing out because of the interest rates. Well, actually, the first buyer backed out for financing, but the second buyer backed out some nitpicky inspection stuff. But really, the interest is not going there. I figured 850, I should be able to sell it for 80,000 real easy.
But yeah, I would say like that. That's pretty much exactly where we would price our property, something that was renting for 850. Another thing we've noticed with turnkey property is, at least in our market, buyers generally tend to prefer, I don't know how many bedrooms and bathrooms this is, but like 3-bedroom, 1-bath is what typically, buyers would prefer in our market. We don't really buy, this sounds like a 2-bedroom house, just based a 2-1, right? Yeah, but I would definitely put it on Roofstock. I've had really great experience working. We've not had a need to sell through Roofstock just because we have our own buyers. But if not, the cool thing with selling on Roofstock is the people that are buying, first of all, they will already do an inspection before they list the property. So when the buyers are buying a property, they already have the inspection report. So before you list, like you already have an inspection that was done on the property. So like so the minor stuff that came up, you can get all that taken care of and then put it on Roofstock. They will send their inspector, do the inspection, or I don't know if you do the inspection, send them the inspection report, but that's it. Like, and then we've never had a buyer back out from Roofstock ever, but even like it's never even been an issue with the inspection. So when you're putting your property, these people, when they're making an offer to you in Roofstock, they've already looked at the inspection report on the property. And these generally are like high net worth individual. So where properties like under $100,000, $150,000, like they would just make a cash offer on that property, or they would already have financing lined up. So I would do, it's great that, you of course, obviously have interest in the property because you've had two buyers make offer on it. You just have to find the right buyer. If not, I've had good experience listing our properties on Roofstock. So I would try that out. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I heard from someone that you can have it listed on Roofstock and MLS at the same time, I think. So I would reach out to them. I think at least when we were listing it with them, last time we listed, they asked for like 15 or 30-day exclusive period. But you could reach out to them and see, what they have to say. But yeah, I mean, dude, turnkey properties have absolutely been like great for us, right? If I could just buy turnkey properties, I would just want to do that all day, every day. Yeah, and if you want to talk to Claudia from my team, like she's the one I manages everything we do. So if you want to talk to her, just let me know. I can connect you with her, and she can share more of her experience working directly with Roofstock.
Awesome, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I guess
just shoot me an email. I'll connect you.
Impact on the interest rates versus sell
I mean,
still selling.
Yeah, I mean, like what we've noticed, like some of these buyers, they do understand that eventually the interest rate is going to come down. So they, in some cases, let's say if someone has like $100,000 to invest, right? They could go invest in, stocks, mutual funds, but the way the market is so volatile, they still want to get, a decent cash flow, or decent, like a rate of return on their investment. So even if you compare like stocks with real estate, even at the high interest rate, so let's say even if you're getting 6.5, 7%, you still get decent cash flow on the property. And then eventually the interest rate is going to come down, right? So if the property is rented for $850, it's at a minimum, it's always going to be rented for $850. But if your mortgage, let's say at 7% is, let's say $400, I'm making it up. But let's say if the interest rate comes down, in a few months or a year, then you refi out of that 7%, you refi it at 5.5%, let's say. So instead of your payment being 400, it'll now be like 350 or 3. So all the money that you save, it just goes directly into your cash flow. So a lot of the buyers that we're working with, we haven't had like pushback on the interest rate. If it is, we say, hey, we can connect you with a buyer that's super, investor friendly, and they can help you get a better interest rate. So I think it's worth having conversation, reaching out to Nate and just having a conversation with him and say, hey, if I were to, have an investor, connect with you, what sort of interest rate they would be getting right now. And Ashley has a question: where are you having success finding, hiring VAs from, and what website? Honestly, I would say the best VAs that I've found have been through referrals, but the first ones that we found, I think, I'd say like Upwork is where we found our first VA. But after you have, or maybe not even Upwork, I think it was through another VA that was working for another investor, and she was kind of running her side VA business. I mean, again, like you also have to balance, you have to look at, onlinejobs.ph. David mentioned that's a like online job forum for Philippines. So I would post it there. But if you're gonna do this, I mean, it depends on like how much time do you have to train someone, right? If you have a lot of time to train someone, you could hire someone for honestly like $3-4 an hour in Philippines, and then have them start in your business. But you're going to have to spend a lot of time working with that VA, train them, and you're going to have to set up all the systems and process versus working with a company that provides VA services. They will charge you $8 to $10 an hour, and then you could have someone that's already trained. And in most cases, they have VAs that are trained in the system that you're using. They already have the scripts. They know exactly what list to pull. So that's where you get a lot of value coming in from, just so that you don't have to come up with those systems and process it. But again, if cost is an issue, I would post on onlinejobs.ph or remote Latinos. Finding in Latin America someone, it's going to be a little bit more expensive. You'll pay $6 to $10 an hour, depending on what country you're hiring from. Versus in Philippines, you could even have someone, you could pay $3 to $4 an hour. But again, keep in mind, at least based on my experience, like hiring people from Philippines, they're working on a totally different time zone. It's like a 12-hour difference from Eastern time. So you'll have to manage with some of those time zone issues, but it works out for our team. We have for REsimpli, we have like 8 or 9 people in Philippines, and it works out great. But that's something you want to keep in mind, working with someone on a different time zone. But yeah, I would start up with Upwork. Upwork is going to be a little bit more expensive, but onlinejobs.ph or remote Latinos. So Tyler said, if you are using the same list for all marketing channels, how many records are you guys pulling through each month? So Tyler, we pull our list once every 6 months. So we'll pull it beginning of the year, mid of the year, and then again, next year, beginning of the year. And then it's the same list that we're using. We're not trying to be like creative or fancy. Just again, they should have equity and they should have owned their place for at least 5 years, or including unknown equity and unknown last year date. That's pretty much it. I mean, if I were in a much bigger market, or if I had, more time, less budget, then I would try to, be a little bit more specific with my list, but it works out for kind of what we're doing for cold calling and direct mail. And then we do PPC and paper lead. Though I haven't had much success with paper lead. So we're doing Need to Sell My House Fast. And then we're doing Liberty leads right now are the two that we're testing out. But I would say most of our leads are coming from our own cold calling and PPC right now. And then we're always looking from MLS also, because we're flipping these houses. We're always looking at buying these properties on MLS. And Narek had a question that he sent to me. So I have been cold calling for a couple of days and already have a few leads, but I noticed something during a lot of calls, the dialer cuts the call short while it's ringing and asks for the call result. I did some testing of call myself, and about half of those cases, the number is actually active. And if I didn't check, I could have marked it as disconnected. Never been able to get hold of the owner is something that you're unaware, and how can we? So it might be, I think somebody else mentioned that. So it might be that, the way you've set the abandoned calls to, if you have set it to, like, you want to set it for minimum 30 seconds. So what happens is if you call someone and after 30 seconds, if they don't pick up, it just abandons the call and goes on to the next call. We are going to be increasing the time limit from the maximum of 30 seconds to 45 and 60 seconds. So that is what might be going on, but you can text those people also. So now you have the ability to text those people from the dialer. So in case if your call doesn't go through, I would at least send them a text message, say, hey, I tried reaching you. Or they may not have a voicemail set up in some of those cases, and just say, hey, I tried reaching you, couldn't get hold of you. Please, call me or text me back on this number. And then he has another, is there a way of integrating or combining a text blast platform with REsimpli CRM effectively? Yes, you can do that. So any platform that integrates with Zapier, you can do that, integrate directly with REsimpli. We are going to be opening up our API in July. So you'll have your API key that you can use and integrate directly with other platform without having to go through Zapier. But right now, we have a bunch of other investors that have spotted contact, or any platform that can push data through to Zapier, you can integrate, which is like any platform right now. So whatever SMS text blast platform works for you, you can easily integrate that with REsimpli. And then if you have any question on that, just email Anthony@resimpli.com. He is I'm going to put his email in the chat. Just email him directly, and then he will be able to help you do the integration if you have any questions on that. Cool. Lynn said she has a question. Hey, Lynn, do you want to tell me what your concern with the app is? Is it related to in-app answering by any chance? Hey, Lynn, if you want to unmute yourself and let me know what your question is, or if you want to put it in the chat, or I can check with my team if you want to give me an email address with which you created a ticket. I can check with my team. Any other questions? I'm sorry, guys. Like, Stratton was supposed to be on this call, but something must have come up, so he wasn't able to join. But I think we still ended up having a really good call. Any other questions that I can answer for you guys? Oh yeah. So So if you increase it 20 to 30 seconds, then that should definitely help. Yeah. So if you have, if the way it works is basically you're telling the dialer, hey, just ring for 20 seconds. And after 20 seconds, just consider it as an abandoned call and go to the next number. So if you increase it from 20 to 30 seconds, then I'll ring for 30 seconds. But we are going to be increasing that limit to 45 seconds. But most of the number, they should have a voicemail set up. The voicemail should come up in 30 seconds. So that if you do it from 20 to 30 seconds, that should help. David said, I look for commercial property. Is there any way I can customize field? You can customize some of the fields. Like you can customize this 1, 2, 3, 4 columns you can customize. So if you go and change titles, so we have other investors that are doing commercial property. So, if depending on, you might not have a need for contact made, it might be, send LOI, for example. So you could change it to that, and that's what your status name is going to be. So yeah, you can do that. And then we are going to be having another update this year where you will be able to move these statuses around and also add additional status or remove also. But the other investors that are doing commercial or large multifamily, I've seen them like basically just move these or change these around to whatever is appropriate for their business. All right, Lynn, I got your email. I'm going to follow up with my team and get back to you and let you know kind of what's going on with your ticket. I'm going to message my team right now. Yep. And then I'll let you know what I find out. And yeah, Alex has a question. Anyone in wholesaling in Chicago? Yeah, Alex, we used to buy some properties in Chicago, like way, 7-8 years ago, but just like dealing with the city because we're flipping everything. Just dealing with the city wasn't so much fun. But my acquisition manager, she's licensed in Indiana and Illinois. So if you want me to connect you with her, she's works with a lot of other investors. So if you want me to connect you with her, just send me an email and I will be more than happy to connect you with her. And anything she can help you with, she can do that.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, because I heard that you have to be licensed, right? To wholesale.
You do.
Okay.
Yes, you do. Yeah. So yeah, she's the one who told me, and she is a licensed agent, so she knows a lot more about it. We don't do anything in Chicago, but I can connect you with her. And then I know a couple of other investors in Chicago area. So if you want, I can make a connection there also.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm going to send you my email. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Any other questions or anything else I can help you guys with? Yeah, Adam, you don't have to be licensed to wholesale in Indiana. I think Chicago is the only place that I know, and I'm sure there are a couple of other states or cities where you need to be licensed to wholesale. But I know Chicago is one of them where you have to be licensed to wholesale. Any other last questions or anything else? Do you give your cold call list of areas where not to buy? So David has a question. Do you give your cold call list of areas where not to buy? Yeah, it's basically like one city in our area, like Gary, Indiana. That's the only city where we don't buy. But we're not even pulling our list, but we'll get leads from that city through a paper lead and PPC lead. Those, we'll still look at them. And then we'll send it to our acquisition person and see here if she knows anyone who might be interested, but we don't. Because again, we're rehabbing and it's not a super good area. So we just pass it on. By the way, we've already set up default caller ID for outbound call, but for some other times that the system is picking another number. Yeah, Lynn, I will have Anthony from our team reach out to you. I messaged him in Slack already. So I'll have him reach out to you and then just connect with you, and I'll also get an update from him on that. It might be just the way your call flow or something is set up. That's why it's not picking up the right number. Yeah, David said Gary. Yeah, we did some flips in Gary last year just because we were getting so many leads from paper lead. We did that. We made okay money on it, but it's such a pain. It's like a D neighborhood. My team, my property manager doesn't want to rent it there. She doesn't want to manage. So we decided we're not going to buy it there. Adam says, who are you using for PPC? We're using wholesaling PPC. They just do PPC for real estate investors. We've had a really good experience. And then they charge about $800 a month. But if you want, we actually put together a very, very detailed PPC course. And then if you want, you can email it to us and you can get access to the course. It's like $500, but it's very, very detailed, step-by-step on. If you had no idea about PPC, I'll walk you through everything on how to do PPC. I used to do PPC on my own, but as I got busy, I stopped doing it. But yeah, if you want to do it on your own, it's a very, very, very detailed course. Cool. PPC, I would say definitely worth it, Adam. If you're not doing it, I would definitely do PPC. You could control it. You can make it as targeted as you want based on the keywords. And then in the course, if you go down that route, it provides you even with the exact list of keywords that you want to use, how to set up your ads and everything. But you don't have to do it on your own. But I would either do it on my own or I would use an agency to do PPC. It's especially as the the landscape is changing for SMS marketing with 10DLC. You want to have more inbound marketing channels set up like PPC, SEO, and direct mail, where people are, even though with direct mail, you are the one sending them a mail piece, but they're still initiating the call. So I would do PPC and then direct mail, like look into those, and depending on your budget, look into pay per lead also. Michael, what do you mean for PPC, like in terms of like an agency to do PPC?
Yes. Yeah, an agency. Is there someone you recommend for our kind of this industry that is better than else?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few companies out there. So this is the one that wholesaling PPC. This is the one that I personally use. I've been super happy with them. So they just do for real estate investors. And Alex said their number one lead channel is PPC. So yeah, I mean, if you guys are not in PPC, I would definitely start doing it. Yeah, so this is, but there's like a bunch of other companies. I would interview 2 or 3 of them, and then see based on your market or your budget, kind of what makes sense. But this is who we use, wholesaling PPC. Again, it's not super complicated. You really need to have the right keywords, right ads set up. And even if you want to hire like a freelancer, you could definitely do that. And if you want, I can send you a list of the keywords that we're using in my business that you could start using in your business. Yep, Lynn, I will send this over. Yeah, I'll send this over to in an email, or if you send me an email, sharad@REsimpli.com, then I'll make sure I send this to you by email. Ricky said, are they a complete company where they market for you and you just receive PPC lead? Yeah, Ricky. So what they do is, like, I basically told them I want to do PPC in this market, and they set up the campaign. So you would tell them what cities, zip codes, or the area that you want to target, and then they take care of creating the leads, coming up with the keywords, and managing your entire campaign from start to finish. So yeah, I mean, they've been really good. It's the most of the work is initially setting up the campaign, having the right keywords, setting up the right ads, and after that, it's just about optimizing your campaign. It's right here. I'm going to put this in the chat. So this is wholesalingppc.com. Yeah, so I would at least have a conversation, and the owner of the company's name is Tyler, and that's who we work with. They've been really good. They understand PPC. They just do for real estate investors and nobody else. All right. Any other questions, guys, that I did not cover right here? All right. If you guys got value out of this call, if I can ask you for a huge favor, it would be amazing. I'm going to put this link in the chat. If you guys got any value out of it, if you can just go to this link, it's going to open like this and give us a 5-star reviews. It keeps our team super excited about it. They see the review, especially our development team and some of the other people that are working on the back end, and they don't get to talk to awesome people like you. When they see the reviews, they get super excited about it. So if you guys can I put the link in the chat. If you can just click on it, it's going to open this, and then just make it super simple. I just take like few seconds. All right. So Narek, I'm a bit confused when I meant to move leads from the dialer to leads. Can you unmute and maybe explain the question that you have, so I make sure that I'm not confusing anything?
Yeah, sure. Can you hear me?
Right. Yes.
Sorry, I'm at a body shop here. It's a little bit loud.
Yeah.
But
no, it's all good.
So I'm just trying to get a good grip on the dialer and the best way to manage the leads, and the way you guys have your system set up, where you have different numbers to keep track of your leads and KPIs, is amazing. But I'm trying to get the upside of it and for it to work properly. So my question was more, how do you manage the fact that whenever you move a number from the dialer, the cold calling list stacking dialer, to a lead, you now have to reach out to that lead with a different phone number, right?
Oh yeah. So the reason why we did that is just because when you're using numbers for your cold calling, you generally like burning through these numbers. You use a number for a week and it gets marked as spam, and then you might just toss that number out. But for the phone numbers that you have for your lead, those are the numbers that you have invested a lot of money into, so you want to make sure you're not using those numbers. So think of it like your phone numbers that you're using for your dialer or SMS marketing, for example. If you're doing, those are your numbers for prospecting, right?
Right.
You may use that number, and then if the number gets spam or if it gets blocked, then you can just toss that number out without any leads that have communicated with that phone number, if that makes sense.
That makes total sense.
So when you move someone from cold calling into leads, so you're moving that phone number, or you're moving that contact from a prospect to a lead. And the phone number that you have for the lead, those are numbers that you want to, keep invested in. Like we have some investors that have like vanity phone numbers. So, the quality of the number, you want to make sure you maintain the quality of the phone number that you have for the leads versus the one that you have for prospecting. So the way we do the transition is, so let's say we get someone on the phone that's interested in selling. And then if you have a different person, you might say, hey, thank you for your interest in selling your property. I'm going to have, let's say, Joe from my team get in touch with you, and he's going to call you from a different phone number. He's going to call you from a cell phone. So you can just say he's going to call you from his personal number or from his cell phone number. And then he'll text you, call you. If you have any question, you can always reach back to me at this number. So you still have that number, if you haven't deleted, you still have that number. They can always reach you back on that number. But that's how we're doing transition of, hey, I'm gonna pass you over to my salesperson, and he's gonna call you from his direct phone number. And then if you know what campaign you're pushing them to, you can just say, hey, he's gonna call you from a number ending in, let's say, 1234, for example.
Yep, exactly. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Quality of the number. The only reason I got a bit confused is because the statuses, or sorry, I don't know what to really call it, the lead statuses, like the lead buckets in the active lead section, it includes a new lead and then a no contact made. So I'm kind of skipping both of those when I'm pushing it into a lead, right? Because the way I'm currently managing
for you guys, you've already made contact, right? So you would use, like, because you're using cold calling, you're pushing them all to contact made. But let's say if you were doing PPC, or if you were doing, direct mail, then all the leads that are coming in, they will initially come into your new lead. And then generally what you're doing at that point, you're trying to get in touch with those leads, right? I mean, you can change the status of this, but the way we use these statuses is exactly how it comes out of, the default, no contact made. So let's say you get a lead come in from your PPC, right? They filled out your website. Now you're saying, all right, we're going to try to get in touch with them. We haven't gotten in touch with them. So they sit in no contact made. Basically, you're trying to get in touch with them. And once you make a contact, but you haven't kind of moved them to the next stage, you put them in, hey, we've made a contact. Let's say this was contact made. You'll say, we've made contact with this person, but, this person is kind of thinking about, what they want to do, and we're waiting on some information from them. That's how you would use, you would use the status. But you can always customize. But yeah, when you're pushing it from direct cold calling, then you made contact with them, so you're pushing them to contact made at that point.
Yeah, so it's kind of designed for the inbound leads. Got it.
It's designed for all the leads, your inbound leads, like you're from direct mail, PPC, or you might be pushing a lead from, your SMS system over into REsimpli. That's, you're pushing into REsimpli. And you'll be surprised, man, like how many people would say, hey, I'm super interested, but then they just completely go missing. And then those again go back into no contact made.
Got it. Okay. And there's no way to push it from the dialer straight into contact made, right? It seems like the drop down to push it is stuck on.
So right now it only goes into new leads, because the contact made,
no problem,
customizable field. So you may have it as contact made, but somebody else may just call it due diligence, for example. So it kind of throws off. So it goes into new leads, and then it keeps track of all your KPIs, also how many new leads you had and how many of those kind of move down the pipeline for you.
Okay. Got it. And then you could just push it over. Awesome.
Exactly. Yep.
Got it. Okay. Cool. Makes sense. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Any other questions that I did not answer?
Hi, Sharad. I joined late, and quick question. You may have already talked about this, the 10 DLC registration. I understand that the penalties for that they're going to start this summer, is what it sounds like. To do the 10 DLC registration through REsimpli, do we register each phone number for its own campaign, or do we register just our entire company with like, because I have like 30 phone numbers or something like that, right?
Yeah,
Like
so
what?
you would register your entire company. So all the phone numbers in there, we will take care of it. So you don't have to worry about, you just register the company, and then the numbers under that company, we will take care of it. So even if you buy additional phone number, like I have 45 or 46 phone number, so I just register my company, and then all the numbers got attached with that, with my company. And then if I buy a new number, it will automatically get added to my campaign. So, and then with the 10 DLC, you know, I did a separate call on this. I would definitely go back and watch this. You know, because a lot of us are using 10 DLC for, you know, so for 10 DLC purposes, so you're registering your company. So let's say if I have, you know, abchousebuyer.com, right? So I register that company. Now I have ABC House Buyer and I have 34 numbers under it, right? Let's say out of those 34 numbers, I'm using 10 phone numbers for bulk text messages, okay? Let's say I'm using whatever different platform outside of REsimpli for that. So now what would happen is the carriers might notice, because it's the same company, whether you register with REsimpli or you register with, let's say, I'm just going to use like Smarter Contacts, for example, right? You still have the same EIN number. So the whole purpose of that is you're taking your EIN number and you are centralizing, like basically the cell phone carriers are creating, you know, a company profile, right? But you go through REsimpli, you go through Smarter Contact, you go through Call, any company, provide them the same information. Now you go into Smarter Contacts and you use 10 of those phone numbers. You start like, you know, sending a bunch of spam messages. The carrier might notice that these 10 numbers are sending a bunch of spam, and they're not going to block those 10 numbers. They may just block the entire company. So just because of those 10 phone numbers, it will end up affecting your entire business. So the whole point with 10 DLC basically is that the carriers want to make sure that anybody that you are sending a text message to, they have opted in to receive a message from you. It's basically to prevent any spam messages. So anybody that's coming in from, you know, website, your website, for example, the way we created our REsimpli website is we made it sort of like 10 DLC compliant, if you want to call it, that you can actually have for 10 DLC approval purposes, you can have that checkbox at the bottom, like at the bottom of each form, where it says, hey, I opt in. Just for the approval purposes, I would do that. So it approves your 10 DLC, but then you still want to have it in your privacy policy. Because if you were to get audited, right? Let's say somebody complains, hey, I'm getting a bunch of text messages from this phone number. This is how I envision it happening. It hasn't. But let's say if you get a bunch of complaints or somebody complains about your phone number, then the carrier might come out to you and say, hey, can you please show me how did this person that you're sending text messages, how did they opt in? Then you may have to prove them that, look, I have it on my website. It says, and this is how the lead came in. And then you will have to kind of document that the lead came in on 1st of the month. And I texted them on the 2nd of the month. Here's when it came in on the 1st of the month. And my number was 10 DLC approved. And then I had it in my privacy policy that, you know, they'll receive messages. And then that's how you, or if they initially text you, then you might say, hey, this is when I receive my text messages. But then if you're simply pulling a list from, let's say, PropStream, you skip trace and you start text messaging, you have no way of proving that somebody opted into your messages, right? That's where it'll get tricky. So the call that I did about a month ago or so, if you are heavily invested in outbound marketing, primarily SMS marketing, I would almost think of it as a separate business that you have. Think of it as a prospecting business and use that and set that up as a separate entity, separate address, separate EIN number, completely separate. So think of it as your marketing business. So if I go back to this chart right here, so think of this as your marketing business is a completely separate entity for 10 DLC purposes as the rest of your business. So again, going back to the question that Narek had about phone numbers, right? This is kind of when we built the phone numbers, like this is kind of what we had envisioned would happen, that, you know, you don't want to risk the integrity of your phone numbers that you have for lead follow-up with the phone numbers that you have for prospecting purposes. The prospecting purposes, the phone numbers that you're using, those are like junk number, like you're burning through those numbers, they'll get spam. Even though like we go back for our, like if you're using REsimpli, the phone numbers that you have, like every phone number that you have, whether you're using it for leads, whether you're using it for dialer, or any purpose, we go in and we remediate that phone number. Every single, like right now, the last time we posted in our Facebook group, 98% of the phone number that we have in REsimpli are clean numbers. We're doing it every single week, nonstop. So it used to be about 10%, 12%, it came to 7-8%, now it's about 2-3%. But with the 10 DLC, if you start doing that, if you start sending a bunch of text messages from your main entity, right? Then the carrier is not going to say, I'm only going to block these 10 numbers, leave these 20 open. They're just they could potentially just block you at the entity level. And then you cannot text anybody. You could call them, but you cannot text anyone. So that's why I would look at, if you're doing text messaging for prospecting, I would set up my entity for text message purposes as a completely separate entity with different website, different EIN, different company name, everything different from my operations entity. So I would start looking at my business as marketing company and my operations company, just to keep it, separate. Let's say if you're doing a lot of TV ads, right, radio ads, inbound ad, and then if your brand gets, rejected or blocked by the carrier, it's affecting everything, your TV ads, your radio ads, and it just could affect your business at a much larger scale.
Thank you. That makes a lot of sense. So let's say I did that. Let's say I did a separate entity, website, name, all that for just the SMS blast. How do I get them into REsimpli then? Or does that need its own REsimpli? Does it need its own REsimpli, or how does that work?
No, you could still get it into REsimpli. So what would happen is just kind of what I was telling Narek. So think of it. So your prospecting company is pushing the lead over to your operations company, right? And now that when somebody has opted in when somebody has shown interest, then you can just say, at that point you can say, hey, you can opt them in at that point. It's much easier for somebody to opt in. So let's say if you and I are having a conversation and I'm interested in selling my property, you can say, hey Sharad, I'm just gonna send you this message, which is basically like reply stop to opt out and whatnot. So there's a much lower possibility that I'm going to opt out because we're already having that conversation. Versus imagine if when you're initially sending text messages to cold traffic and you have, reply stop to opt out, majority of those people are going to reply stop, right? So just now imagine how would that affect your algorithm for your company to the cell phone carriers? They see majority of the people that are replying back to you are replying stop, then all of a sudden they're like, hey, this is high spam, high risk sender. And they might either, reach out to you and say, hey, what's going on? Show us the opt-out. They might audit your 10 DLC, or they might just completely block your entire company. So just set up a separate entity for your prospecting, marketing business versus your operations business. We did a call on 10 DLC. I am trying to find it here. 10 say this one. Oh yeah, this one. So really, we went deep into this. So I would definitely have a look at this. Like really affects people that are doing a lot of text message marketing. I would really look at my prospecting marketing company separate from my operations company. Yeah, and Lynn said, I totally agree with that. That's how we set up our number. We have one number that is allocated for our hot, warm leads and outbound calls, and the status of the number is good. We have other caller IDs for list stacking. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I would keep just start thinking of marketing business, operation business. And if you can, again, it's going to cost you like $100 to, set up a separate company, EIN, and do all of that good stuff. But I think it's going to be totally worth it. And David has a question. Should we keep the numbers once they are flagged as spam? 100%, David. I would not get rid of the number. We are very, very aggressive about removing the phone numbers from the spam check. The last time we had only 2% of the numbers that were marked as spam, and the 98% numbers were clear. So even if it is your cold calling number, I would still keep it because we are going in every single week. We're remediating your phone number with AT&T, T-Mobile, Verizon. So we're going and doing that. You're paying us for that, so we take care of that. But if you notice, I mean, what we don't guarantee it's going to come off, but we have really good success rate. But if for some reason you notice one number has stayed as spam for like more than 2 or 3 weeks, reach out to us. We might remediate that number separately from our bulk remediation and see if we can get that removed. But just because you see spam 1 week, please do not delete that phone number. All right. Any other questions, guys? Anything else that I can answer for you guys?
This meeting is the same time every week, Sharad, is that right?
It is correct. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Tuesday
Same Zoom link as well.
Yep, same Zoom link also, correct.
Great.
Yeah, and those of you guys joined in late, I'm gonna put this link in the chat. If you guys can just click on that, if you got any value, and give us a 5-star reviews. My support team and my development team, they love seeing that. That's kind of what they look at and get super excited about it. So I'll appreciate that. And then, yeah, if you have any other questions, you can email me directly, sharad@REsimpli.com, or email us at support@REsimpli.com. And Lynn, I got your email. I'll reach out to my support team and look into that, and I'll have them get back to you. Okay, cool. All right. Thank you so much, guys. Have a wonderful rest of the week, and I'll see you guys next week. Thank you.